Hey, this is Ken Finnan at Capital Advantage Tutoring, and it's my job to get you past the Series 7 exam and the SIE exam and all the other ones. But right now, we're focusing on the 7. So I'm trying to finish up the Series 7 work in progress to give yourself the whole thing you need to supplement your studies for the Series 7. Remember, no video program will ever replace the reading the book. It doesn't. I don't care what anyone says. They can say they're primary or not or whatever. I sometimes say it. It's not. Okay, you got to read the book, do the questions. I mean, I don't have questions. We can't do it. Okay, so we're going to talk about settlement and regulatory today. Some really boring stuff, but I'm going to try to make it less boring, although it's hard. This is just crap. Okay, so let's get going. So we have an audit trail system where they're tracking the orders that are coming from the customer to the broker-dealer and then gets executed. So it's called Order Audit Trail System. To be fair, they retired it in September of 21. So some of you people watching this after 2022, there's no chance of being on the exam. They replaced it with CAT, C-A-T. Sounds like Capital Advantage Tutoring, right? I love it. But CAT is a much more reliable system for tracking the orders where the broker-dealer sends them. The whole point is to make sure that we know when the order is received, when it was executed, how it was executed, all the information. That's what it's doing. So OATS was the original. Okay. And then they started doing CAT, and then they realized it was much more reliable, more efficient, and covered more things. So there's going to be a lot of stuff in the future going on, but it's probably not in this exam. It's just you may hear that and know that CAT is the order trail system that pretty much replaced OATS. If you were taking the Series 57 or the 24 or any of the principal exams like the 9, 10, and the 24, I would go way deeper into it. But on the SIE and the 7, barely tested. They're just going to mention that it's an order trail system that tracks your order from when you get it to when it's executed and how it's executed, whether it's full or not, stuff like that. So let's talk about after you do the actual trade. So if you actually do the trade, you have to tell people, right? It has to go on the tape or be reported so people can know that the trade happened. So ACT is the overarching platform that is for stocks, okay? Now, if it's a NASDAQ security, then you use TRF, Trade Reporting Facility, TRF. New York Stock Exchange has their own system, so it's like they use their own system. Don't worry about that. That shit goes on the consolidated tape. Okay, so now, if we're over the counter, which is basically now just pink sheets because bulletin boards are gone. So anything over the counter equity is going to be ORF, makes it easy. ORF and TRF. Trade Reporting Facility is for NASDAQ securities. ORF is for over the counter equities. Both of those are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So if you do the trade, which could happen after 8 p.m., you have to wait till the next day to report it. If you do it between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., you have 10 seconds to report the trade on both TRF and ORF. Now, let's jump to bonds. Corporates and treasuries, most treasuries, and what they call trace-eligible bonds, okay? Trace-eligible bonds are reported to TRACE, T-R-A-C-E, Trade Reporting and Compliance Engine. Boom. They are actually only open from 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. And since bonds aren't as active, I mean, not active, but they're not as volatile, you actually have 15 minutes reported. So, okay. So equities are 10 seconds. Bonds are 15 minutes. So corporates and treasuries use TRACE, and they have 15 minutes reported, and they're open from 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Now, since I didn't mention munis, we're going to talk about it now. They use RTRS, Real-Time Reporting Transaction System. I'd say real-time reporting system, but there's a transaction. RTRS, Real-Time Reporting Transaction System, again, 15 minutes, and they're open from 7:30 till 6:30 p.m. Now, don't confuse, I'm going to bring this up because it should be in there. Don't confuse real-time reporting system with EMMA. EMMA, okay? EMMA is basically electronic municipal market access. It's where you get all the disclosures from munis, like official statements and all the documents, all the primary market stuff. That's where you're going to find the information for munis. You can also get a lot of that stuff as when it's first issuing from the bond buyer. There's a lot of stuff on the bond buyer. Great website to go to for muni bonds. But the real system is EMMA, Electronic Municipal Market Access System. That's where you get all the official statements and other primary stuff for munis only. Now, we've taken the order, we've recorded it, we've done the trade, we've reported it. Now, how the fuck does the money get back and forth? That's called settlement. And that's always going to be on T+2, trade day +2, business days. So if I do a trade on Monday, it's going to settle on Wednesday. If I do a trade on Tuesday, it's going to settle on Thursday. If I do a trade on Thursday, it's going to settle on Monday because we don't obviously settle on weekends. So that's the basic of what you have to know. Let's go a little deeper. So most securities that you're going to deal with are what they call DTC eligible, DTCC eligible. I guess you have to think of it that way. So if they're DT, I'm going to just say DTC because it's easier. Okay. It's basically a platform where they journal back and forth. So I think of it as a big warehouse. It's not really, but think virtually a big warehouse, and every firm has a room with a vault. So like you have Goldman, again, this is virtual, it's not real. Goldman has a vault, JP Morgan, Jefferies, UBS, they have a vault, and they have their securities that their customers own or don't own. So if you do a trade, and they have they have their cash there too with all they have. So if you do a trade where Goldman's buying from a customer of Goldman is buying from a customer of JP Morgan, when on the second day, T+2, the money will come out of Goldman's vault and go into JP Morgan's vault at the exact same time that the shares come out of JP Morgan's vault and goes into Goldman's vault. That's settlement. And it happens simultaneously, okay? Most of the shares are going to be held in street name or under DRS, which we'll talk about. But everything's what they call book entry because you're not actually getting certificates. Look, the way it used to be was that if you had a certificate, you bought, you own shares of IBM. On the back, you would have to sign the back, kind of like a title for a car, and then send it back. It's called, stock power, whatever you want to call it. That took a while. So now all the shares are held in what they call street name, which means if you have an account with JP Morgan and you buy shares of Tesla, love Tesla, you buy shares of Tesla, you don't actually own it. Your company, your broker dealer does, with you as a beneficial owner internally. So that's why SIPC comes into play, which I'm not going to talk about here, but SIPC, I just said I wasn't going to talk about it. SIPC protects in case the broker dealer goes bankrupt, it'll give you some of your money back up to $500,000, but only for things that are in street name. Because if you own it in your actual name, if the broker dealer goes down, who cares? Because the company whose shares you own knows you as the owner, they'll just replace the shares or book entry. Say, oh yeah, don't worry, Johnny, you have the shares. Now, again, this is settlement. So book entry is pretty much going to be, it's all journal inside computers, ones and zeros and all that. And they just move shit over. Kind of like when you wire money to a bank, they don't actually take the cash and walk it over. They just go, okay, we deduct it here and add it there. And there the money moved. It's the same sort of thing. They have a system, and it's been around for a while, and it's starting to pop up on the exam for the last 5 or 6 years. DRS, Direct Registration System. So what that is that's where you actually get to hold the shares in your own name, but it is absolutely still in book entry form. So it can still be moved around without you having to sign the back. It makes it easier, lets you own the shares, but also lets you settle them just as quickly as the other way. Now, that also means as the stuff moves back and forth, it's pretty smooth. But there's what happens. There's a thing called a DK. If you ever watch the movie Wall Street, they bring it up. A DK is just basically, I don't know. It's like if I come at you and say, listen, you bought I'm going to simplify. If we did a trade where I bought 1,000 shares at 42 from you, and you go, yeah, you sold me 1,000 shares, I bought them. And then I come at you and say, well, I bought them at 41.99. You're going to go, I don't know what you're talking about. So you'll send me a DK and kick it back to me, okay, and say you got to fix it or whatever. That's a simplified form. If the stuff, the money, the amount, whatever the information doesn't match, you're going to DK it and kick it back to me. So let's talk about the different types of settlement. Regular way. Pretty much regular way is T+2. Trade date, you do it on Monday, it settles on Wednesday. I did that already. That's normal, the normal settlement, okay? And literally everything trades T+2 except for 2 things, treasuries and options. And trading of them, their exercise and actual delivering and primary market is different. But right now, trading of options and trading of treasuries is T+1. They're the only things that are normally T+1. Everything else is T+2. Now, what if I know that I'm going to be settling at a different time? Okay, so I want to settle at a different time. I go, look, I either have to do it in 20 days or 5 days or 8 days. You can do that, but you have to say that before you do the trade. So the person buying it or selling it the other side knows that that's going to happen. Normally it's on the sell side because maybe you won't be able to deliver the shares in time or something like that. But the bottom line is if I'm going to sell shares to you and I want it to settle in like 9 days or 12 days or just called seller's option, anytime between 3 and 35 days, I just have to let you know before you buy it so you're aware. Seller's option is one of them. Another one is cash settlement. Cash doesn't mean I'm actually giving you cash because they all, that's not the same as cash settlement versus a cash account, right? So there's cash account and margin account, which is not this, but I'm giving you the differences. A cash account means you're not using margin. You're paying 100% for everything. Still T+2, all that stuff. Margin account is where you pay for a part of it and you borrow the rest. Still T+2. Has nothing to do with this. So a same day settlement or cash settlement means we're settling the same day. And unless the numbers have changed, if you do it during the day, it has to settle by 2:30 that afternoon, which means the shares will switch. JP Morgan to Goldman, money goes from Goldman to JP Morgan by 2:30. If you do the trade after 2:30 p.m., it's supposed to happen within 30 minutes. So when issued, so it's when and as if issued, when and as if issued, we just call it when issued. That means like the shares or the bonds, whatever, have been authorized, but have not been issued yet. So people don't like to wait, okay? People do not like to wait for the actual thing to happen. So they're trading ahead of time. And that's just called when issued. Again, it's just understand the concept of it. You're probably not going to get heavy questions on that shit. So that's settlement. That's when the broker dealers settle with each other. But what about you? Okay, so it's called Reg T settlement. Okay, Reg T settlement is longer. That's when you have to come up with the money. To be fair, there are very few broker dealers that won't make you have the money up front, but it could happen. When I was a kid, it happened a couple of times. So I'll get into that. So now, everything is pretty much going to be T+4, non-exempt, right? So non-exempt securities, corporates, bonds, stuff like that. Options, T+4. Treasuries and munis are exempt from Reg T because remember, they're exempt. Munis and treasuries are exempt, so they don't have to follow Federal Reserve rules of Reg T. So T+4 is you buy the stock on Monday. The broker dealer settles on Wednesday, which means they deliver the money. You actually have until Friday to pay for it. There you go. That's that. Okay. That's Reg T settlement. That's payment date. Now, if you don't have the money by Friday, you can ask for an extension, get a couple more days. But if you don't pay by that Friday and don't ask for an extension, then they freeze your account. Ooh, they freeze your account. But that doesn't mean a lot other. All it really means to you for the next 90 days is that you have to, if you're going to do a trade, you have to pay for it up front. I was 15, 16 years old back in the 80s, a long time ago. And I was trading options. How do I do that? Somebody else's account. I traded on my mom's account. Okay. Statute of limitations is over. So I think I'm safe saying that. So I traded options, and what I would do is every December, I would buy December calls. And then when the earnings came out, it'll pop a little, but I made some money. Okay. So from like I was 15 to like I was 19 or 20. But one of the times I did it, I guess near the end, I made the call and then I didn't have the money to pay for it. And remember, settlement was longer back then because, T+5 in the 80s. I had more time to pay for it, but I didn't have it. And he's like, well, okay, well, we can get an extension. So we got an extension. I still didn't have the money yet. So he goes, I got to freeze your account. And my heart starts beating because I'm like, how am I going to explain to my mom that the account was frozen? He goes, relax. It's not a big deal. He said, your mom doesn't trade on margin. She doesn't she pays all the money's in the account already. Don't worry about it. So what happened was they freeze your account. He said, fine, I'm going to freeze your account for 90 days. That means for the next 90 days, if you want to do a trade, the money has to be in the account ahead of time. So I had to do another trade. I was trying to do another trade on something else. So I sent the check first. And then he said, sure, I'll take the order. Once he goes, oh, the check cleared, then he was fine to take it. So that's regular way settlement is T+2. Reg T settlement is T+4. If you don't pay by the time of Reg T is over or don't get an extension, they're going to freeze your account for 90 days, which is not a huge deal. It just means that you have to pay for everything up front. You don't get that 4-day leeway. Also going to read about something at one point called the CUSIP number, CUSIP. I'll try to write it. The CUSIP number is just an identifier. I think of it as like a VIN number. So like when we used to, back in the 90s and stuff, when I was trading on the floor, a customer called down and said, I want to buy the Chase Preferred. And I go, okay, which one? And he goes with the Chase 5% Preferred. I said, okay, which one? There were 4 different Chase 5% Preferreds. It was like cumulative, participating, and all those, remember those from the earlier chapters, all different ones. And I was like, I don't know which one to buy. I got to get something. So I said, give me the CUSIP number. So he did. He tracked it down. Like 10 minutes later, he found it. I mean, going crazy because we have to buy it. And he tracked it down. We're telling the specialist, hold on, we got a big order. We're going to do this. And he get the CUSIP number, went in there. And then this is the worst part, because usually the workaround, if you don't have a CUSIP number, is go, what price were you willing to pay? And usually far enough price away that it wasn't a big deal. But like the one was trading at 38.50, the other one was trading at 38.60, and then the third one was trading at 38.40. So even then I couldn't pick it out. Usually there's always workarounds and you can get it quicker because speed is everything on the floor. It's all about, yelling, you're running out, you have to do it. You have like 30 seconds to get everything done. You're moving millions of dollars with just basic piece of paper, no lawyers, no nothing. And it's crazy. But there's always, you find ways, you have to think on your feet a lot and work around stuff. But this time it didn't work. So we needed the CUSIP number. So I always think of a CUSIP number as like a VIN, like a vehicle identification number. So this way I can identify what the security is. Each security has their own VIN or CUSIP number. Now, a lot of people get confused on this. So what is a unit of delivery? Okay, if you're doing an odd lot, that's fine. If you're buying 30 or 40 shares, just deliver what you have. But anything over 100 has to be in 100 unit of delivery, meaning that everything has to be, I guess, a factor of 100 maybe. So if you're going to deliver 400 shares, it has to either come as 400 share lots or 200 share lots or one 400 share lot. And remember, this is electronic. It's not like we're delivering paper anymore. But you have to have good delivery. Also, if you're going to do odd lots, they have to add up to 100, not 400, 500, 100. So if I'm going to deliver 400 shares, I could do 8 lots of 50, 8 groups of 50, because the 50s paired together equal 100. I could do 4 lots of 70s with 4 lots of 30s. They match together into 100. Like I could do 8 50s, but I can't do 5 80s, because 5 80s, 80 and 80 doesn't equal 100. It doesn't work. So it has to add up to either be the total amount or 100. At 100, that's the minimum trading unit, and that's the delivery and settlement unit. Like when you see a trade, like when I do my bid-ask videos, right? Everything's in 100, because if you buy 140 shares, they're only going to display the 100, not the 140, just 100. And then when they execute, you'll buy the 140. They usually just take care of odd lots because nobody gives a shit about them. But that's the way they do it. So it's always in 100 share lots, and that's delivery units. So like if I were to buy 300 shares, I could do 6 lots of 50, but not 5 lots of 60s. I could do 3 75s and 3 25s. That works. I could do 3 80s and 3 20s. That works too. The other way they trick you sometimes, more on the vendor, is they give you one that looks good, but it's more than you want. Look and say, oh, say they give you what's 9 times, say it's 400 and you want to do, and you say 8 50s works, but they give you 9 50s. That doesn't work. It's too many. You would decay that. That's too much. You would say no to that. So you always have to keep in mind that you have to match the numbers and they have to be in lots of 100. Now you can do a whole 400 at a time or a whole 300. Now, let's say I buy 380 shares. I could do 6 lots of 50, and then the 80 could be anything. So the last odd lot can be any way. It can be 80 lots of 100, 80 lots of 8 lots of 10, 10 lots of 8. To get to the odd lot amount, nobody cares. It's just to get up to the last round lot, like out of 450, to get to the 400, you have to do it in the rules, either in hundreds or in stacks of 100. I really doubt they're going to do it, but most bonds are 1,000 each. Okay, that's par value. It's the unit of delivery. 1,000 or multiples of 1,000. That's what bonds are. I doubt even you'll see a question on that. Adding on to that, if we do bonds, there's kind of 3 ways bonds are: bearer, registered to principal, or fully registered. Bearer bonds, there's no names on it. It's like a piece of paper. Here's the piece of paper, M&Ms like that. Piece of paper with the coupons, the interest rates attached. And what you do is you rip off, not that they do these anymore. There's no name on anything. So if you saw Panic Room or the original Die Hard, they were stealing bearer bonds because there's no name on it. So what happened is you'd rip off the little coupon for that date, you would mail it in, and they'd send you a check. Like if you ever go to the supermarket and you see, oh, there's babysitting, where you rip off the phone number, that's what it looks like, okay? So if it's a bearer bond, has no name on it, and you just rip off the coupon and mail it in, and you get it, and at the end of the 30 years, you mail that in, and you get the $1,000. That's that. Registered to principal is your name is on the 1,000. There's a name. It's a physical certificate with the name on it, okay? Now, your name's on, it'll say like, Mary, whatever. And then all the coupons are attached to it. So again, you have to rip off the coupon and mail it in. But your name's on the main part, but your name's not on the coupon. You just mail it in, okay? Now, fully registered means you're not going to get a piece of paper. Basically what happens, let's say, I'm not going to say you're not going to get a piece of paper. They don't do that anymore, but your name's there. It's your name is on the interest and the principal, and they will absolutely mail you the interest. You don't have to do anything. They automatically mail the interest, and at the end of the 30 years, they do the $1,000. So let's make sure. If it's a bearer bond, you have to hand in the coupons to get the money, and at the end, hand in the bond to get the money. Registered to principal, you have to hand in the coupons to get the money, but you'll automatically get the $1,000 at the end. Fully registered, you don't have to do shit. The money will come direct, the interest payments and the principal come directly to you. Good. So if you buy shares under 144 shares, usually they have a, restricted shares unregistered, they have a holding period. So during that holding period, you can't sell it. So they put a stamp on it. Yes. I mean, and that's why I think a lot of times they still do actual physical certificates for the 144. So you can do it. Whenever we had somebody come in and wanted to sell their 144 stuff, we said, the back office told them, hey, bring in the certificate. And I'm like, I can't tell my customer to do that. But they said, yeah, just make him do it. And they all understood. They bring them in so they can see if there's a legend on it. So it would have like an R or a 144 stamp on it. And then it means you couldn't sell it. So the only way to get it off is to get it into the transfer agent, who will then remove it, reprint out a new one without a restriction, and then you can sell it. Even if it's beyond the 6 months, if the restriction legend is still there, you can't sell it. You have to actually get the legend off the shares. But if it's during the 144, they won't take the legend off because you can't fucking sell it. Unless you sell to who? 144A. Under 144A, you can sell to a QUIB, qualified institutional buyer. That's an institution that's over $100 million, and they can buy pretty much anything they want, even during the restricted period. Let's talk about the settlement and dividends a little bit. We know from other videos, you should know this by now, DERP, D-E-R-P, Declaration X Record Payable. So you know that if you buy it before the X day, you're entitled to the dividend, correct? But what happens if you buy it before the X day and then the seller doesn't deliver in time, so that you're technically not on the paperwork? That means you're entitled to the dividend, but you didn't get it. That's what a due bill is for. A due bill is basically saying, hey, that dividend you got is really mine. So the broker dealer sets it up. If you buy shares that you would have gotten a dividend and you by mistake don't get them, then for whatever reason, if settlement's bad or whatever it is, you're going to get a due bill, or not, you're not going to get a due bill. The person who got the dividend is going to get a due bill and have to pay you the dividend. Bought an option, it's coming up to expiration. When do they expire? Well, everyone wants to say 4 p.m., but that's not the answer. 4 p.m. on the third Friday of the month is when it stops trading. Okay. So that's when it stops trading. For the most part, sometimes it's a little later if the stock's delayed close, but then by 5:30 p.m. Eastern, I only care about Eastern because it's what it is. Okay. 5:30 p.m. Eastern, you must give your exercise instructions. Now, here's the thing. If a stock is in the money by a penny or more, it'll automatically exercise. So what should you do as your customer's rep? You have to warn them and say, listen, during the last week, it's right around, it's in the money, or it's out of the money, or barely, or it's at the money. You have to at least warn them and say, listen, if it closes in the money, you're going to get automatically exercised. So maybe you want to sell this thing or buy it back before 4 p.m. if you don't want to take exercise. So you have to give the extra instruction by 5:30, but remember, if it's automatic, don't worry about it. And then by 11:59 on the third Friday, it expires. So everything will be done before then. It used to be the Saturday after the third Friday. So when I was like 12 or 13, I was a runner, and I knew that every third Friday I'd be up all night because we actually had to physically deliver the exercise instructions and get the shares and all that. So it's not the shares, but get the paperwork back. So I knew I was there. That's why they gave us till Saturday, because you had to physically do it. Every Friday, the purchase and sales guy and the margin clerks and all that stuff, they would all get together. They would buy a bunch of plane tickets, which in the 80s you could do with no names on them. And then you'd add the names on because you actually deliver the certificates, fly out to California, fly to Texas, wherever it was. That's why back in the 80s, all the broker dealers had their stuff down around Wall Street. So it was a quick walk. That's since I was 13, they couldn't let me, fly or go crazy. But I would be, till 10, 11 o'clock at night, maybe even 2 in the morning, we'd be delivering exercise instructions all over the street. We go, we come back, we get another one. So that's what it is. Now it's all electronic. So that's why you have until that night, 11:59 p.m. So again, last time you can trade an option is 4 p.m. Then 5:30 is when you have to give the instructions. And then 11:59 is when they expire. So let's say you do exercise. How does this work? So you send your exercise notice to the broker dealer. Your broker dealer notifies the OCC. Then the OCC, the Options Clearing Court, will then randomly pick a broker dealer that has customers with open sale positions of the option that you bought, that you're exercising. then they will pick one randomly. They'll pick one of those broker dealers randomly. Then that broker dealer has to look at all their positions and use a fair and equitable way to choose who's getting exercised, or assigned is a better word. If you buy an option, you exercise it. If you sell it and you get exercised, it's called being assigned the obligation. Hey, and that should end this one. Guys, if you have more questions, I have a live every Tuesday and Thursday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And then I do the membership Zoom classes every Sunday. You can just join, and it's $25 a month. It's a fucking bargain. You get to sit there and we get to sit there, we go over questions, and people come in with what they have, and we do stuff, and it's a real good community. They also do little side groups on their own. Really good stuff. Y'all,